was it Ben Franklin, I think, that said that, the lottery is a tax on people who are bad at math.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, as always, on these Wednesdays, we got Matt Jones. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Todd?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. It's fall, beautiful, and, it's hunting season, so I've been distracted a lot with that, but it's been good, and this market's just weird. It's crazy, so it's hard to pinpoint, but things are good, man. Things are good. How about you?
Yeah, good as well. I mean, I hear what you're saying. There's that delta between what sellers, still want to sell at the old higher prices, but I mean, with interest rates and with the prices that should be decreasing, I'm wanting to buy at a little bit better price. So it's a good time to be patient right now, I think.
100%. There's the REIT market has gone down roughly 25-30%. Of course, depends on the REIT and all that kind of stuff. So if you look at the public markets, real estate valuations real estate value has gone down 20 to 30%. And on the private market, it has not gotten nearly that. And so it doesn't mean apples for apples, it's going to happen the exact same. Public markets react differently than the private markets. Public markets are this kind of knee-jerk reaction and super emotional. And, somebody sneezes just a little too loud and the public market decides to go down by 35%. So, just obviously not tied completely correlated, but that gives you maybe an understanding of the private market has gone down by, let's call it, depends on where you're investing, certainly, but I'd say I'm seeing mostly like 5 to 10, maybe 15%. So there's maybe some opportunity for additional fluctuation we'll see, time will tell, but there is this delta, as you said, like there's these sellers want a certain price, but look, I could pay that if I was getting 3% interest,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm getting, 6%. So I can't pay that price. And guess what's going to happen? Interest rates are probably going to continue to rise. I don't see that maybe slowing down, but I don't see that stopping anytime within the next 6 months. So if you're a seller, sell now, because your value of your property is likely going to go down if you're able to sell, of course. And as more deals become available or need to become available, I should say, because of resetting loans, that means the prices will even further go down. So I think it's a great time to be patient as a buyer, and as a seller, I think you need to be aggressive right now. This is the time that you should be selling. It's just like, when you flip a house, Matt, it's all about velocity. It's about getting rid of that property. If you're in a selling position, now, if you don't care if you sell, if you just sell, if you get a certain amount of money, fine. But if you're in a selling position, it's about velocity, right? It's right now, especially, you've got to get out as quickly as possible, sell the asset and move on. And you're going to find better deals, by the way, to get into. So sell now, get what you can, and move on, because I think your value is only going to go down. It might not crash, but why sell for 15 million when you could sell for 15.5, right? So,
and I think there's a little push as well for residents to stay in the apartments. It's harder for them to get approved for these loans because the prices are still pretty high for single family, and now with the increasing interest rates, and so people who are already living in single family don't want to sell because they're locked in at sub 3% interest rates, and if they get a new place, they're like, it's going to cost them a lot more. So there's just not a lot of movement in that sense.
So this isn't really our topic for today, and maybe we're going to just get completely sidetracked, but the rental market's interesting right now. It is softening.
Mm.
We are seeing rents aren't going up like they were before, and rents are actually starting to come down. The Twin Cities is St. Paul and Minneapolis both are actually seeing rent declines, which they're only one of a couple cities across the country that are seeing negative rents. But I think you're going to see that start to pile up. You're seeing higher vacancy rates, and you're still seeing a record amount of building taking place. So you're getting the most amount of inventory that we've ever seen, coupled with you're seeing a softening in the rental market. You're seeing prices going down or stagnating, and you're seeing vacancies go up. And one of the reasons why vacancies are going up, Matt, isn't because there's too many properties, and maybe that's starting to take place in certain cities, but it's because people are doubling up, people are moving back home. They don't need that. They're not going to go into that 2-bedroom, they're going to go into that 2-bedroom with a roommate versus into that, 2-bedroom as just a single person. And so you're seeing that type of stuff to take place already. And I think that'll continue, especially if we get into recession. And so even though people aren't buying houses, they're also finding ways to be a little bit more frugal with their money when they're renting places.
Mm.
And that's going to put negative pressure on the apartment market. It just is. It's just reality. Now, I don't think that the apartment market's going to go crash and burn, because I still think that there's the good enough fundamentals long term where it's going to be okay. But your valuations might hurt for a little bit. Your NOI might decrease a little bit. Again, everything's going to be okay in the end. But if you're counting on rents going up 7 to 10% and counting on a 98% occupancy, I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
So the point of the story is, if you're looking to sell now.
Yeah. And if you're looking to buy, be patient and understand that there's some opportunities likely coming. And again, I don't want to sit here and say that we're going to see this big foreclosure crisis, because I actually don't think we will. It actually might be a great time to raise some funds into a fund and invest equity into people's deals that have good locations, that have a good business plan, but are just undercapitalized and need to get into long-term debt, but they have a gap of the equity that they have and their need. And so you can come in, you can bring them, $2 million. They'll get into that long-term fixed rate out of their bridge, and you'll get a good piece of their deal because of that.
Sounds good. All right. Well, believe it or not, we got sidetracked, as you said, and we were actually going to be talking about being wealthy versus being rich. Which one is better?
Yeah. Well, I think, for me, everybody can call wealth anything they want. Anybody can call rich anything they want. But my definition of rich would be having a ton of money, right? Having a bunch of money, more money than what you need, and being able to live your life however you want. So being rich is having more money than what you need. In my opinion, being wealthy also has that. It has having more money than what you need, but it's living your life on purpose, and it's creating a greater impact than yourself. Where being rich doesn't necessarily include those things. In my opinion, being rich is just about the money, where wealthy is about the whole package. So that's the difference to me. And I think you can be wealthy without being super rich, but I do think it does take freedom of financial freedom, right? For freedom from your finances. You can't be a slave to your job and be wealthy, in my opinion. Again, some people will disagree with me. They'll go, "Well, I'm wealthy because I've got, all the love I need, and that's what I need, and I don't have the money." But that's not what I don't agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. When I say wealthy versus rich, and there's different contexts. Certainly, I'm speaking in the strictly financial sense right now. And you look at all these lottery winners that win like millions in dollars, and sadly to say, I did not win the billion plus lottery of the Powerball. But
Did somebody win it?
no, not yet. Well, I mean, at the time of this recording, not yet. But by the time this is released, who knows? So.
I heard
Anyway,
about it. I think yesterday evening. I didn't buy any tickets, but that was the first time I heard that it was some big lottery. This shows you as much as I pay attention.
well, was it Ben Franklin, I think, that said that the lottery is a tax on people who are bad at math, because the odds are just terrible. You're more likely drown in your own bathtub or get struck by lightning or something than.
Yeah. That's why I don't really play. I mean, I can't say that I haven't. I have a couple times, more or less, just for the heck of it. I think I bought 2 lottery tickets 5 years ago for my wife's birthday or something like that, and gave her 2 lottery tickets, just for fun, that type of thing. That's about how I buy lottery tickets, like once every 5 years.
Yeah. It's just, exactly, just for the heck of it. If you're like diverting a big chunk of your income for that, then that's a bad investment in my mind.
That's how you don't become wealthy or rich.
Exactly. But so the people who do win these massive amount of money, oftentimes they go broke or worse, into deep debt, because, while they're rich, they don't invest it. They just spend it frivolously, and it just goes all away. And then they've got nothing to show for it. But wealthy, regardless of how much money you have, if you're investing it wisely and replacing, so your income from your investments is able to replace your earned income to the point that you don't have to work anymore, financially, that's true wealth.
Yeah, I would agree. So, I mean, you're saying rich is not necessarily something you're keeping, or you're utilizing properly, right? It's just you maybe have a windfall, you maybe got the money, but you necessarily utilizing it properly. And so, unless you get that windfall again, or unless you get the patent happens to pay you again, or whatever it might be, that you're not really wealthy, you're just rich.
Exactly.
Doesn't have the staying power.
I just read something like 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so there's doctors, there's lawyers that are high income earners, but they live paycheck to paycheck because
I'm surprised that number's not higher.
It's ridiculous. In schools, we don't teach financial intelligence. So people think like, oh, my income increases, so I got to have a bigger house or buy a new car or boat or whatever. And so your money comes in and then it goes right out, and you've got nothing to show for it. So that's pretty common.
That's another thing. That would be the difference right there between somebody who's maybe thought of as rich, but really not wealthy. And you could argue, well, they're not rich either, but is those people who are living their paycheck to paycheck, but that they have the yacht and the cars and the house and all the toys, and they're making good money, but they're living paycheck to paycheck because they're spending all their money too. And I would call that person maybe rich, but they're not wealthy. They haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, I recently read the book, The Psychology of Money, which you recommended.
That's a great book.
And it talks in depth about this, about how, there's a janitor who was hardly making any money, but he, lived, frugally and invested his money, and he died a millionaire. But then there are people who, made a bunch of money, developing new technology, but then they spent it like crazy, and and then they went broke right away, as a result. So how are you using your money? If you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, it never works out unless you've got passive income that's covering those expenses.
Yep. I know a few teachers, teacher couples. One of my, really close friends growing up, um, his parents were both teachers, and they're wealthy. And it's not because they did anything out of the ordinary as far as their income, because they were teachers. They weren't making great income, right? Um, I mean, he was. My buddy's dad was working a second job at a gas station while my buddy was in high school, so he could save up enough money to get him through college or help him through college. That he was literally working a second job at a gas station in order for that to happen. But the frugality and the determination, their continual reinvesting of the capital, not just out there blowing their money and just being smart about it, got them to a point where now they're wealthy and they fit, in my opinion, that definition. I know a few other teachers the same way. Not a lot, not very many, but there's a couple that actually do it the right way, or I shouldn't say the right way, but the way to create wealth. And it's funny to see, and it's or sad, more the probably the better word. It's sad to see some of these people that are making 10 times, 8 times what a teacher makes, and yet they're in a worse position overall.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the basic tenets from Rich Dad Poor Dad, like live within your means. It, because if you're not, you're never going to get to where you want to be. You're just going to be spinning your wheels. You're the hamster on the wheel, just running around and around and around, and not making any progress whatsoever.
Yep. Here's what I would say is wealthy versus rich. Rich people make wealthy people look bad. Rich people are the ones that are out there with all the money. They're out there with showing off. They're out there being jerks about it. They're out there being arrogant, bragging about the money they have. They're flashing their money, but they're miserable, right? The reason why they're doing that is because they're miserable, because they're, whatever, they had a bad they had a bad childhood or something, and they're trying to prove to people that they've somehow made it. Those are the people that are rich, and those are the people that give wealthy people a bad name. And so that's rich versus wealthy. The wealthy are out there, they're doing good things with their money, they're living below their means, they are living in I just wouldn't necessarily even say a modest house. Some of them do live in very beautiful, nice houses, but they're not out there flaunting their money. They're not out there, um, you know, just being arrogant about it. You look at even some of the wealthiest people in this country, and Warren Buffett, I mean, a perfect example, just drives an okay car, lives in an okay house. I'm sure he spends his money, but he's not out there flaunting it. But what he does is he's pledging a ton of money to charities, right? And a lot of these billionaires are doing the same thing. They've pledged a massive amount of their wealth to charities. They're trying to do things that create an impact upon this world. They've created businesses that are impacting the world, and they're trying to do more beyond their business to continue to impact the world. That's true wealth. And now a billionaire is easy to call wealthy, right? But there's many other people that are in the millionaire category that are also wealthy, that are also doing the same thing, and they're taking care of their health, right? They're watching what they eat and exercising, and they are working on their family life. Again, wealthy people still struggle, right? Wealthy people still have addictions. Wealthy people still go through divorces or whatever it is, but they're working on bettering themselves all the time, and they're working on the things that are struggling in their life to try to create that happiness, and then just continually growing. I think that's a truly wealthy person, somebody that's continually growing all the time.
Yeah, and being financially wealthy doesn't mean all your problems are solved, but it does
No.
mean that you have the time to be able to spend on working on those other things to be wealthy in all aspects, like you said, your health, your family, your spiritual aspect, your mental health, all these things. But if you're constantly working and you can't focus on anything else but like working for your next paycheck because you got to pay your bills, otherwise you become homeless,
Oh.
it's really hard to work on other stuff at the same time.
Yeah,
And
my business partner on the my senior living side, he was talking with our senior living staff, and this is exactly how you become wealthy and how you maintain your wealth. And he was talking about on how you better yourself overall in general. But he's just like, when do you have a little bit of free time? It doesn't need to be a lot, but when do you have a little bit of free time where you can either sit down and read a book, or you can put something in your ears where you can listen to something that's going to be motivational, um, that's going to direct you in a better path. Doesn't have to be just motivation, but somehow going to direct you in a better path. Do you have any time on your way to work where you can spend even 5 minutes, even if your drive is 5 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes where instead of listening to the talk show in the morning, or instead of listening to a couple songs on the way home, can you do that? That's what the wealthy are always trying to do, is find a few minutes to be able to focus on bettering themselves, focus on how can I learn just a little bit more today to be better tomorrow.
And for our listeners out there, if you have any friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances that you think that you'd love for them to learn how to become wealthy as well, by all means, recommend the Pillars of Wealth Creation or other podcasts or books to them. I mean, I think it's all about sharing with each other, because
Yeah.
we all do better when we all do better together.
Yeah. I love it when people share with me different podcasts or books, or, just different ways to listen to different things. And I'm all ears, and some things don't connect with me and some things won't connect with you. And so you just move on with it. Right. There's plenty of audio books that I'll purchase. Or there's plenty of books that I'll purchase and I won't get through the whole thing because it just doesn't connect with me. Or I'll skip some chapters. I'm reading one right now. I really like it, but there was probably about 6 chapters in a row that I just skipped. I started listening to one of them. Like, yeah, uh, I don't need to listen to this right now. It's not interesting to me. And then I looked at the title of the next, I think it was like 6 chapters in a row, and I was like, yep, nope, gonna skip that, gonna skip that, gonna skip that. And I skipped to a chapter. I'm like, okay, this sounds like it could be interesting. And I started, um, you know, it back up, and it's like, this is great. And so it's okay to either skip chapters. It's okay to put a book down and go, I don't like this. This isn't jiving with me. Maybe I'll pick it back up in 2 years or a year or 6 years. But right now it's not jiving with me. I'm going to put this down and I'm going to listen to or read the next that's on my list. And I do that. I do that probably 3 to 4 times a year on different books. And I do every once in a while pick them back up. I wouldn't say everyone. I do pick those books back up and I try them again. And sometimes again, I put them back down and I go, there's a reason I didn't like this book. Time to sell it. And there's other times where I go, wow, man, this is a great book. I'm so glad I picked it back up and read it.
Yeah. And I would also add, for an easy way to gauge your wealth is to measure it through time. And what I mean is, if you stopped working today, how long could you live, with your current expenses without, going completely broke? Could you
Yeah.
last a week?
Current and increasing expenses, probably, right? Because if you're going to stop right now, what do you want to do, right? What do you want to do? You're probably going to spend a little bit more money. So I would say not current expenses, but I would say growing expenses. Then you got to consider inflation as
Yeah.
well, and inflation is obviously ripping pretty high right now, but you got to at least consider 3% inflation. And sometimes it's not that, sometimes it's 2, but sometimes it's a lot more. So, if you can say, hey, 3% inflation, and then my expenses growing by, 10, 15, 20%, whatever it might be, that is going to get you to where you want to be. yeah, where you at with that? And you're not truly wealthy until you can probably live the rest of your life on, and really the rest of your life on the income that your assets are producing. That's how you get wealthy. Is you have assets.
Yeah, I think when I first started learning about investing, like the biggest thing for me was to separate my own time that I'm putting in for making money versus like having my money work for me. That was
Yeah,
just a hard concept, an easy thing to understand, but at the same time, like it was so ingrained into me growing up that hard to break free of that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. It's an easy concept, like you said. Oh yeah, I have my money work for me. But what does it really mean, and how do I achieve that? But that's the only, in my opinion, true way to create lasting wealth. Well, it is the only way, because otherwise you're having to work continually. You have to create it so your money makes money, and so you have to buy assets. You have to buy things like real estate. You have to buy things that can make businesses. You have to buy things that, or create things that can continue to make money without much of your time and focus. Maybe it has to take a little bit of your time and focus, but I'm talking a very little bit. That is how you create real wealth. It's not flipping houses. It's not, you know, it's not working at a job that's paying you $1 million a year. That can help get you there, right? It's a great tool. But then what are you doing with that income that's going to create true lasting wealth? And that's buying assets.
Yep, I agree.
So cool. And there's another difference between the rich and the wealthy, right? The wealthy have the assets. The wealthy have income producing assets that are going to continue to pay them, and the rich have income. They don't have assets. They have probably liabilities. They have a lot of liabilities. Um, you want to obviously have more assets than liabilities, much more, and you want to be able to control, you, you know, those. I mean, poor people buy stuff, right? Middle class people buy liabilities. Think their house, their car, their four wheelers, their boat, that type of stuff. Rich, wealthy people, they buy assets, right? And their assets pay for and more than any of their liabilities.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
And they, I think most wealthy people try to eliminate their liability debt as well. Um, that's something I know not everybody agrees with, but for us, we don't want car loans. We don't want a house loan. We don't want stuff. We don't want loans that are in our personal name. I'm all for loans that are in my business name that are helping me grow my net worth. But I want to be free personally from a bunch of liabilities that are dragging me down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's a little Dave Ramsey for you, but it's Dave Ramsey mixed with Robert Kiyosaki, probably, or whoever likes wealth.
Yeah, well, I mean, to a point though, using leverage, creates greater wealth than having no
Absolutely.
leverage at all.
Absolutely. I'm all for using leverage, all for it in the right context.
Yeah,
As long as my leverage is making me money. That's why I don't like leverage on your own single family house or on your vehicle, is because it's not making you money. Now you can argue, well, but I can use that money then to buy more assets to lever. Yeah. Okay. But you're leveraging your house that's not making money to get something that is, and that's to me a slippery slope to try to justify your mounting pile of debt.
yeah. Maybe if you're house hacking, if you're renting out
Sure.
part of it, or
But that's income producing, right?
yep,
Now that's a different story. Now it's income producing. So, if you're buying vehicles and putting loans on them, yet leasing those out through Turo or whatever, and you're making money, well, now that's an asset, not a liability. But most people aren't doing that, Matt. Most people are just creating more liabilities, and most people are not replacing their liability with an asset. So cool, man. What else? Anything else?
No, that's all I can think of for today.
Cool. All right, man. Well, go out there, get wealthy, create assets, keep improving. I mean, just focus on improving yourself one little bit every single day. One grain of salt every single day, and you'll find yourself in a totally different position this time next year and this time in 10 years. If you just keep on growing just a little tiny bit, and if you keep on putting that money into income producing assets, amazing things will happen.
Sounds good.
Matt, you have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday.
Thanks. You too.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. But your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.